Hello everyone and welcome back to the CLSR, and I'm your host, the counselor. Today we're going to be talking about part 2 of how to present. And in this section, we're going to really be discussing how to refine and rehearse your presentation. And that's going to include stage presence. How you say something is just as important as what you say. That's almost like close to 80% of your presentation, how you say it. You have to make things look like they're easy when you're doing it. It's almost like it comes natural to you, effortless, right? You have to rehearse. Remember, it has to be smooth. You have to achieve mastery in this skill, right? And keep it in mind that one thing that your audience is going to want is familiarity, which is your costume or your wardrobe or what you wear. Try to be as consistent as possible. It's almost like every time you present, they know that you are there because you are kind of wearing something that could be similar. All right, make sure you know that. So whatever you wear doesn't change all the time. It has some frequency to it, some consistency, so that they can identify you as that speaker. That's what is important. Remember, you're getting inside the psyche. So you want to be as consistent. Think of Freud, what he used to wear. He used to wear the same outfit all the time for different reasons, but he became very famous for this outfit. And if you want to really be smooth, you got to get rid of the script. Talk to your audience. Relate to your audience, right? These slides, aren't going to do it. You have to be very effective, right? Remember, it's almost like you are talking to a family member. You got to have fun. And above all else, remember your stage presence. You have to master. You have to be the master of your stage presence. You have to master that stage presence aware that you understand the basic technique of body language. You have to improve your body language. Like with eye contact, you have to make more eye contact than most presenters. You got to make it look like this is something you breathe, eat, and sleep, this subject. So you don't want to keep looking at the slides or your presentations. You want to make eye contact with your audience. That has to be at least 90% of your presentation, that eye contact. Be very mindful of the eye contact that is necessary. The more eye contact you make with your audience, the more you relate to them. And open posture. Be careful of your posture. Make sure that you're not looking tense. You don't cross your arms. You don't sway. You don't show that you have a nervous tick to yourself. You have to be very open. And the key is being open. An open posture. Relaxed. A comfortability to this thing. And hand gestures. It's okay to use hand gestures. Learn how to use them correctly to emphasize your point. Okay? It helps you and assists you with your words, these hand gestures. And when you do talk, have some style to your conversation, right? Be as effective with your hand gestures, and when you speak, right? Create some excitement. Have a certain style. Make sure that all this wraps up into a story, a well-rehearsed story. So when you speak, say things with style. And inflection is also important. How you lower and raise the pitch of your voice, right? When you're getting excited, you may raise your voice up to emphasize your point, right? And one technique that I find is well underrated is the pause. When you're speaking, some of the professionals have taken at least 15-20 seconds to pause. And it's almost like it leaves the audience on edge, right? Where they're just waiting and anticipating. And that's when you know you got real control. It's not a pause because you lost your thought. It's a pause because you are in full control and you know that your audience is waiting. They're just ready to eat up the next piece of information that you're ready to spit out. And be mindful of your volume, okay? You get to lower and raise your voice to add drama to your presentation, okay? Make sure you're aware that the voice has some real impact in it. And the rate of speed, okay? You gotta speed up for certain pieces of information and slow down for other pieces of information. Make sure that your prospects or your audience, they're receiving it. And when you slow it down, you can show some emphasis. You slow it down and you give the audience a chance to see that you are purposely relaying this information, which gives them an indication of its importance. Okay, and then you bring it back, right? And you have to act like the person that you need to be, the true leader, the person with understanding of personal power. So just make sure that you pay attention to your body language, maintain that eye contact, and have an open posture, and use hand gestures when it's appropriate for you to do so, right? Don't be afraid to use your hands. Use them when you need to, but just appropriately, and be a confident speaker, right? You have to vary your vocal delivery. You got to add inflection to your voice, raising and lowering your volume, right? And the speed is important. These things are very important. Speeding up, slowing down, letting your material and content air out, right? Pause is also a wonderful part that you could use. When you have a well-placed pause in your presentation, it speaks volumes. And I do suggest that if you want to see how smooth your presentation is, I strongly recommend that you record yourself, right? On camera even, to see your body language, listen to your vocal delivery, watch yourself on video. This is the best way to improve your presentation. Make it look effortless, but watch yourself and learn from what you're doing and make the adjustments. So if you're listening to this podcast, that is essentially what you do in a nutshell. Make sure that you cover these techniques and that you record yourself to see your delivery. You're going to have to make video recording of yourself a major part of your presentations. This has to be front and center when it comes to presenting. You're going to have to watch how you yourself perform. And you're going to have to get some feedback, right? And you're going to have to check off certain things. Create a checklist from the information I'm providing you. Create a checklist of all the things that you're going to need to cover, or assess what you are able to do. Just make sure when it comes to your presentation, kind of do it from memory if you can. Avoid eye contact. Remember the body language. It's got to be strong, confident, and commanding, right? Make sure your arms are open, they're not crossed. And these filler words are constantly being used, like be careful of those to fill space between thoughts. This shouldn't be overwhelming where you're people pick up on those filler words. So watch for those. Review your performance, and the vocal delivery is essential. Also, make sure you're taking care of your health, energy, right? You have to look like you just been freshly awoken. You are ready for an event. You have to have lots of energy. So you have to get lots of rest. Okay? Make sure you're well rested, vibrant, enthusiastic, and generally thrilled. Right? You're ready to share this story with the audience. You're ready to inspire, encourage, stimulate, right? Have fun. You are going to be that messiah, that uplifting person. You're going to require energy. So what are some of the steps that you can take when you're rehearsing, right? Like, let's say if you get some off-the-cuff remarks from some of your audience, how do you deal with that? How do you respond to even questions? So, first of all, there will be people that may be somewhat nervous and intimidated by you once you have established your presence. So, if someone asks you for some information or advice, ensure that your answers are very specific. They're inspiring and free from those or pause words. No. Make sure your filler words are not being part of that response. Speak like you're speaking in everyday language. So be specific, inspiring, free from filler words, and the conversation must be everyday language, easily understood. Now, one thing that you will notice is that too often you will hear speakers on television even, all these filler words, they become very, very distracting, and you have to get control of them. So what I strongly recommend is the tap method. And the tap method is simply when you even record yourself and you're speaking, right? Then you want to look for the filler words. So what you do is you do the tap, whether you do the tap with a glass or a bottle, and you can count even. But you do a tap to see and count how many times you're using filler words, because too often the filler words become annoying and people end up paying attention more to your filler words or your content because they're trying to absorb the information. So you have to be aware of these filler words and do the tap method so that you can track them. So when you record yourself, see how many times you're using these filler words and how it could be interesting to see how it impacts your presentation. And when you are video recording yourself, make sure you're doing it in front of some of your colleagues or your friends so that you can get some reaction, some instant feedback, right? You want to be able to get others involved so that they can give information that you could use and you can improve upon your presentation with this feedback. And it's only natural for you to present and feel nerves, but the best and only remedy to reduce or eliminate nerves is practice, rehearsing, right? That's how you do it. The more you practice, the less anxious you'll be. The nerves will subside, but you have to rehearse, you have to practice. So just remember, practice, 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 and practice some more. Don't take anything for granted. Review everything in your presentation, right? Every message that you do, analyze it. You know exactly what you're going to say when you're going to say it and how you're going to say it. Responding to questions will not be a challenge for you if you're well prepared. Instead of trying to figure out which questions you may be asked based on the service or product that you have, try to respond in categories. So like if you have a product and you think of your competitors and you know that your product might be somewhat more expensive than the competitors, try to focus on the price. Okay, so now I got to work on responses to the price. If I get asked why is my product more expensive than the rest, so I'm prepared for that. Do you understand? So that's how you think of it. Think of responding in categories rather than trying to figure out exactly what they're going to ask you. So narrow down those categories for the best responses. What you wear is very important as well. I mean, you have to dress like a true leader. You want to be in the position that dominates your audience. You have to dress better than the audience, right? You have to wear the appropriate clothes for the culture, right? And be consistent as you can. Dress to impress. simply put. If you dress down better than anyone in the room. Make sure your presence is known. Inspire in all ways. Dress to impress. It is important for us to understand that there are expectations from your audience. They expect you to be as natural as possible, a gifted performer, a gifted presenter. And in order for you to do that, you're going to have to relieve yourself of this script. Too often, presenters are using script and it deteriorates their presentation quickly. So how do you avoid the script? Because so many people depend on it. And it can be the difference between life and death in a presentation. So how do you do that? So first you have to write your script in full sentences in the notes section of your PowerPoint, for example. You don't need to do any extensive editing at this point. Write down your ideas in complete sentences and keep your ideas no more than 4 or 5 sentences. Then you highlight and underline the key words from each of those sentences and practice. Run through this script. Glance at those keywords to jog your memory. Delete any words that do not fit or are extraneous words from the scripted sentences. Make sure you leave only the key words. Memorize 1 key word per slide. Practice the entire presentation without notes, simply using slides as your prompter. This is the steps, and these are those 5 major steps. Write down the script in full sentences, highlight key words, delete any words that are extraneous, memorize 1 word per slide, and practice without these notes. And this will take some time, but being a great presenter takes hard work, and it gets easier as time goes on. Now, we have to understand that notes aren't all bad. It's how you use the notes. You want to highlight your main words, your key words, and you want to make sure that you place them where your audience does not see them, where you can just walk around, do your discussion, hit your marks, make your major points, and drift back to your note section. You could be at a pulpit, wherever. Make that a part of your presentation. Some of the greatest presenters make sure that they, if they do need to refer to a note, they have it where it's disguised or it can't be seen by the audience. The one thing that distracts the audience greatly is when you keep referring to notes and it does not look well rehearsed at all. It has to seem as flawless and natural as possible. Do not read from your notes, for sure. When you do read from the notes, create no more than 3 or 4 large fonts so that you can just boom, go. As soon as you say those words, they trigger you into action. Right? Use your visuals to help you along in your presentation. This will also assist. Have fun. Make sure you're having fun and don't focus on small things. Keep it moving, but have fun. But the more you practice, refine, and rehearse, the more you will deliver. Right? Keep this in mind. Make sure that you are having fun, you're well prepared, and think of it as one of the top information and entertainment, right? Combine those two, information and entertainment. That is a great presentation when you can entertain, energize, inspire, persuade, and never apologize, right? Calling attention to a problem is an issue. Never apologize. Move forward. Keep it moving. And there will be times when things go wrong. However, you can adapt easily by not focusing on what could go wrong. Just keeping on course. Don't focus on the small things. Keep the big picture in mind, right? And let the small stuff roll off your back. Another essential element in your presentation would be headlines or the use of a key theme and advice like stay strong, keep your head up, and keep smiling. Now, this message could be encouraged throughout your presentation. However, you want to make sure that you are presenting in a way that you have some surprise for your audience, right? Especially when you end your presentation, give them one more thing to think about, right? And it can't be consistent in every presentation. It has to be a surprise, giving them something that'll get the juices flowing, something for them to process, and something for them to look forward to when they see you again. Now, for all my listeners out there, I'd like to review much of the information that I've given you today so that if you need to write down some of these points for future reference, it's a great time to do that. So what I recommend is create Twitter-friendly headlines. Nothing too complicated, right? Make sure that you want to kick your presentation into gear with simplicity. 140 characters in your description, maximum. Also, introduce an antagonist, right? A problem. Something that could open up their minds and get them to start thinking before you introduce any solution. Stick to the rule of 3 when you're presenting. You don't want to put too many details up there for them. Rule of 3, right? Unleash your inner energy, your Messiah-like character, right? Display this motivation and passion, and use some uplifting words, encouraging words. It's pretty fantastic. It's quite amazing. It feels wonderful. These are words, it's unbelievable. These are words that really will assist you in your presentation. And try to use some props when necessary. Stage your presentation with some props. And that could be for some of those kinesthetic learners, right? We talked about the auditory, visual, and kinesthetic, the hands-on. So props are good for that. And I can't emphasize enough, practice, 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 right? Videotape yourself with a couple friends. Make sure that they're aware that you're looking for some feedback, honest feedback, and you want to get their impression, okay? Have fun and be prepared to inspire, right? Make sure that you are there having fun. It's what you do. It's your lifestyle. It's what you become. You are a presenter. You are selling, believe it or not. Your ultimate goal is to persuade. So make sure you stick to the rule of 3 and keep it simple. Dress up your numbers. Make sure they're in context so that they can understand and easily relate to them. Follow the 10-minute rule. Think about the attention span of your audience, your prospects. You want to make sure in 10-minute intervals you're either changing it up or you're moving on. You are not overindulging in information. You do not want to be boring and monotonous. You will lose your audience immediately. And that is exactly what you don't want to do. But above all else, you're going to have to make it effortless. You're going to have to make your presentations look effortless, as if this is what you breathe and this is what you believe and you have a passion about it and it comes easy to you because this is a service or product that is a part of you, right? And when you're answering questions, keep it very conversation friendly, very specific. All right, make sure that you're addressing the questions and use category to prepare. Right, for all the questions that you will be asked, think of the different categories and practice how you can respond to those categories based on the service or product that you have. And then you're going to eventually, after you create your antagonist and through some information gathering and some relation and connection and rapport building, you will introduce the hero, right? And you will discuss that and how they relate. Create your visual slides. Visual is great. Majority of people are visual learners. However, you're going to have to follow some of the professionals and what they do. One of the world's best presenters, Steve Jobs, has a couple things that he follows, and I strongly recommend that if you want your audience to have a lasting impression and to be able to persuade them, ensure that you use the 10-40 rule, that 10-minute. Remember we talked about the 10-minute where the attention, you got to keep that every 10 minutes. You got to either reinvigorate or change it up, but you're mindful that 10 minutes people start to check out unless something else gets their interest. Right? You have to be aware of that. 40 is when you are doing that 140, right? The characters, right? When you're starting out, limit it to the 140, right? And ensure that for the first 10 slides, there's no words, no bullets, no charts, and no text. Some of your words should only really appear on slides 11. First 10 are for your animations, maybe your iCloud presentation, and your visuals. But really, when you think about it, the slides only complement the story. They are not the story. You are the story. You are the narrator of this story. So you use this technique every time. And make sure that you know that you have to tell the story behind the product, your company, the service, an initiative, any idea that you may have. Check to ensure that your presentation is not dull, confusing, boring. Is your audience engaged? Ensure that it's interesting, uplifting, inspiring. It persuades and motivates. The success of your presentations and your ability to persuade is solely dependent upon you, how well prepared that you are. Do you show passion? Are you connecting with your audience? Can you focus on their needs? What are they there for? What do they care about? Keep it simple. Concentrate on your core message. Use eye contact at will. It's important. Tell stories. Make sure they have relevance. Use your voice effectively. When using slides, make sure you have a good template. You choose the visuals wisely. You remember that you're there dealing with or trying to convey messages or persuade to the median person, not the bigwigs. So speak accordingly. Make sure you understand your visuals are important in your presentation. Give people something that catches their attention. Use big text for big impact. And lastly, I'd like to say, think of like a mapping situation when it comes to planning your presentation. Make sure that you are planning the content of your presentation by defining the destination you want to take the audience to. By the end of the presentation, determine where the audience is now in terms of knowledge and perspective on the topic, and then plan the best route for moving the audience from where they are to where you want them to be at the end of that presentation. It's like a mapping system. Go through it. Be very precise. Procedure is everything. Follow it from beginning to end. You are leading them. You are persuading them. So you have to do it like a map. You bring them to this spot, and move them forward to another spot, all the way with a common theme. Have confidence, believe in yourself, make sure that this is your passion. Bring passion to the table. People will embrace and you will persuade. You have to have discipline. Understand there is hard work involved, but it's a pleasure when you're loving what you do. And you have to think that you are going to make people's lives better. How can I make people's lives better? Thank you. And I want to say thank you to all my listeners. And I hope you learned something from how to present. We've had some real goodies in there. And if you follow them to a T, you will be above the rest. And you want to be, because you believe in yourself and you have that personal power to deliver. So I challenge my listeners to go out there and deliver the best presentation that you can, and you will see the results. But you have to be committed. You have to put in the hard work. You have to rehearse, refine, and prepare and practice. Okay? So take care of yourself. Thank you for listening. Until next time.